On Christmas Day 1950, a group of 4 Scottish students broke into Westminster Abbey and removed the Stone of Destiny from the coronation chair. The stone was originally taken from Scotland in 1296 by Edward I as spoils of war, and every British monarch since has been crowned upon it. The 4 students returned the stone to Scotland, but surrendered it to police on the 11th of April 1951. The stone was returned to Westminster Abbey and subsequently, in 1996, returned to Scotland once more and now resides in Edinburgh Castle. Since then, rumour has surrounded the stone, suggesting that it may have, at some point, been copied and that the stone that now sits in Edinburgh Castle may be fake. This documentary investigates some of the ongoing debate about the stone.
So Ian Hamilton was just a student.
He was a student.
Just a student. He studied at Glasgow University. We have 4 universities in Glasgow just now. He decided to take law, as a study. And one of the lecturers, or I think the head of the law department at the time, was a guy called John McCormick. It was about they didn't have an SNP at that time. They were known as the Covenanters. So he was quite a patriotic Scot. And I think Ian Hamilton was maybe impressed by maybe his presentation, maybe sometimes his politics. Anything to do with law always involves politics. So Ian Hamilton maybe just get caught up in it. I think reading his book, when the petition came back from Westminster saying that the devolved powers had been rejected, I think he probably just felt as if a wee bit disappointing. It's almost like the Scots we're always promised something or something better's going to come, and then when we sit in patience like we always do, and then it doesn't come, it's like you think, right, okay, there might be another way around about it. And I think he just thought, I think Ian had said to me, or in his book, was he was just looking through a book, a history book, and he'd seen a picture of a suffragette, one of these a woman in 1928, I think it was, a woman called Wendy Wood, who's part of Scottish history as well. And he seen her standing outside Westminster, the Parliament's at Westminster, and she had on the board which says "Give back the Stone of Destiny." So it's almost like he just picked up the idea from somebody else. So I think we were saying earlier on was like this idea of the issue of the stone, where it is and it belongs to us, it's been carried on through generations. And we're just picking it up, both from Ian Hamilton, who picked it up from Wendy Wood. So we're just continuing it, carrying on. Ian's a student at Glasgow University. He managed to, I don't think he, according to his story in the film, I don't think he could actually get any other students, but he managed to find 3 other students. So they decided was maybe one of the best times of year to go down to have a look about bringing the stone back to Scotland was when it was quiet. So obviously maybe the Christmas and New Year period. And I think he probably done it for Christmas Day. I suppose maybe the quietest day, even back in 1950, would probably be quiet. It would be Christmas Day. So maybe if you're going to do something like that, then while everybody's still asleep, there's not many people out on the streets, then that'd probably be the best opportunity to go in. And as I said, I think he had enough sense was that he was aware of the significance of it. Hence the reason why, instead of bringing it straight back to Scotland, it's not like nowadays going down to London and bringing something straight back up again. I think he knew that the roads might have been shut off. So what he decided to do was, instead of coming north, he decided to go south. And he just left it there, covered it up, and then came back up to Scotland. Then the story was that he felt that because of that time of the year and the weather, if the rain got onto it and it started to freeze over, it might damage the stone. So he just came up here, had to talk about it, and then straight back down for it. And then he brought it back up, as I said, to Scotland on Hogmanay in 1950. So his thing was, he, in his book, and also speaking to Ian, seen it almost like a student prank. It's like we're in Glasgow today, and I said one of the statues has always got the police cone over the top of it, or the traffic cone it is. So it's almost like he's seen it as, who would have thought about it? Who would have known? Almost like it would probably have to be done by students to have both that time off and to maybe have that thought to go down and do something like that. Whether or not he thought it was going to actually carry it off or not, I don't know. But I think he probably did see it more as a student prank. Obviously, once he came back home, and it was in the newspapers, and they realised, obviously, the authorities were going to have a look at it differently. This is where the idea was to go down to Westminster Abbey to remove the stone. From the film, when they pushed the stone out from the back of a chair, they pushed it out. It was heaven what they thought. They reckon that's the reason why it dropped on the floor. But Ian Hamilton went to then try and pull it onto a jacket to pull across the floor. This is when they pulled one of the rings, and this is where a part of it broke off, about a fifth of it. So he bought the bigger part of the stone. As I said, the smaller part of the stone went with Kay Matheson. She had a prior engagement in Birmingham, so this is where she took that part of the stone. Ian, they were thinking at the time was that rather than coming straight to Scotland, what they decided was to go south. I said, we'll find that picture in the book. Eventually, when they came back up, they thought at that time of the year, because of the weather conditions, if water had got into it and frozen over, then it would have damaged the stone. Brought it back up here on the 31st of December 1950. Traditionally here in Glasgow, it's called Hogmanay, the day before the New Year. They arrived here. The theatre across from me is called the King's Theatre, and this is where they arrived. The reason why he came to the King's Theatre was because Bertie Gray, who was a stonemason who eventually repaired the stone, his office is just round the corner. We're talking about a place called, one of the better known streets here in Glasgow, called Sauchiehall Street. So he's just round the corner, which is a place now called the Garage. So Ian Hamilton sat here. Ian Hamilton says in his book was that he was aware of the prophecy of the stone, wherever the rightful king or heir came and sat on the stone. And Ian Hamilton said they did take the jacket off the stone and had a lot of sat on the stone because you never know, it might have been him. So he said they waited here, waited till Bertie Gray, get in contact with Bertie Gray, met up with Bertie Gray, and then Bertie Gray phoned one of his friends, a guy called John Rollo, who stays out in a place called Bonnybridge. That's the bit we're going to visit later on, and this is where the stone was kept for the 104 days.
And this is where the offices were of John Rollo. John Rollo's office was this particular area, and this square that's been dug up around here was a large pit, very deep pit, in which they put the stone overnight to hide it. Sleepers on the top, and John Rollo, the owner of this factory, his desk was straddling this. So when the CID officers came to look at the place and search for the stone, John Rollo was sat at his desk grinning because he knew very well he was sat over the desk and that they wouldn't find it. It was buried there.
Now, the story behind the stone, in 1950, I think it was, there was some Scottish students who had actually went down to Westminster and decided to take the stone back to Scotland. Now, in doing so, the stone was actually damaged, and it went back a few months later. It was returned, but when they left it at Arbroath Abbey, it was rumoured that the stone they gave back to the English was in fact a fake stone. It wasn't the original. Now, we can't confirm either way, but they took the stone back, and there was various complications when King George VI had died shortly after, because it meant that Queen Elizabeth, as we know her now, was supposed to be coronated in 1953. There was quite a delay between the death of her father and the coronation, and the story is that this was brought about because, in fact, they didn't have the genuine stone. The Stone of Destiny, from the statutory system, the existing system, they have used the Stone of Destiny over the years to crown various kings and queens through centuries. This has been used simply because the ceremony itself, the coronation, has to be witnessed by God. Now, the story is that the witness, the stone itself is the witness for God. Without having the ceremony conducted in the presence of the stone, it would nullify the existing ceremony, which means it's null and void.
Obviously, if we may look back now, was that the stone that was handed back was accepted as the real one. I mean, so it's almost like, can they accept something as being real and then go and charge somebody for stealing it?
No.
I mean,
So he gave it back, no intention to permanently deprive.
Yeah.
Had they known at the time that it wasn't the same one that left there, maybe it would be a different matter. Well, certainly it would be a different matter.
Aye, obviously the dog looked completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think, again, looking back at Ian's book, he said was that it's almost like the authorities had the stone back, and we'll just keep quiet about it, maybe even as much as embarrassed by the fact they took it in the first place. I mean, so the fact that they've got it back, I mean, they've told everybody they've got it back, just like everything settled down.
In my opinion is I believe that the stone's fake. They have the paperwork given from independent geologists prior to 1950 confirms that the stone was actually from stone which is not available and cannot be quarried in this country.
Okay.
It was a porphyry sort of stone. It's not available here. It was inspected and they had the report. I think they took scrapings from the stone. Now in 1950 when the stone was taken, it was returned shortly after, and when they got it back, the Scottish Government have kindly on the website confirmed that the stone they are now in possession of is stone which was quarried in Scone in Scotland, and it's a red sandstone, which confirms that it's completely different, and this is a stone that is currently in Edinburgh Castle, and that's been confirmed by the Scottish Government, which means that the original stone is no longer there.
Yeah, there's a few Knights Templars still in the area, so it makes common sense that they're going to tell somebody, and I think it'll be the Knights Templars. I don't know what it is, but I know a couple of Knights Templars, but they wouldn't divulge anything. But I believe, as you say, it makes common sense because of the fact is that it's so important to the world, really, that stone, especially if you're that way minded religiously. It's so important to everybody that stone must be protected until there must be someday somebody is going to say, right, we need that coming up. So I do believe that they know.
When I kind of have a look back at some of the events and the people who were involved in taking of the stone in 1950, although Ian Hamilton is the one publicly associated with her, but remember at this point, this is what was called the Scottish Covenanters, which was really the beginning of the SNP.
Yeah.
I mean, so it could have been a kind of political group maybe at that time, 1950. I always think that the Covenanters were people who I would probably describe as really patriotic Scots. We're probably realising was that this stone was taken from us and was keeping it for that reason, for Scotland. I don't think they maybe seen it as an independence thing later on. I think they just realised was that this really did, or in their mindset maybe, it did belong to Scotland, so this is why they were keeping it. So you said at that point, then I think it would have probably been kept by the custodians, as you said.
Yeah.
One of two of the anecdotal stories I've heard was it's lying in somebody's back garden. Somebody said to me, where's the best place to hide a stone, and amongst other stones. And somebody said to me, it's not actually hidden, it's in plain sight.
So there are people that claim to know more about it than...
Yes. I think what I found in my kind of research was that I think some people have some information that they don't want to release just now. I mean, it's like, I'm sure, to put myself in their position, if I had been the custodian of the stone for 50 years and somebody came and tapped my door and said to me, is there any chance I can have a look at the stone? I'd probably think twice.
Yes.
And that we believe that, because I spoke to a chap just a few months ago who told me that where he lived, they brought the stone down and they made a couple of copies down on Bonnyside Road. They made a couple of copies there. Now the fact of the matter is that did the right copy go by? Well, that takes me on to Alex Salmon. Now you've heard of Alex Salmon.
Yes.
Alex Salmon was the First Minister of Scotland. Now I've been in Alex Salmon's company a few times. I wouldn't say he's friendly with me, but the fact is that during a couple of times that I've heard him speaking, he stated quite clearly that the stone of destiny, or the stone that's in Edinburgh, isn't the real stone. But I think that's because it would be, we're sitting here now, and at the end of it would be great if you could think, well, all these numbers are all adding up. This could be the time somebody's going to come forward. Well, it might very well be that they're saying, well, the state of the world the new is, do we need the stone to come out the new? Is it going to be helpful to mankind? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
So far, we have learnt that when Ian Hamilton and his friends brought the stone from London to Scotland, that it was stored for 3 months at Rollo Engineering in Bonnybridge. We also know that a stonemason, Bertie Gray, was brought in to repair the stone. It is here where things become a little unclear. It has been said that copies were made of the stone, and that the stone surrendered to police in 1951 was one of those copies. From here, numerous rumours have formed, suggesting that the stone at Edinburgh Castle is not the original, casting doubt on its authenticity. Certainly, whilst in Edinburgh Castle, we were not allowed to even photograph the stone, the security of which is strictly monitored. Whatever you may choose to believe about the Stone of Destiny, it seems that the truth, for now, remains a mystery.